Let's get this. Good morning.
A great morning. Happy Friday to everybody. Super excited about the way we're closing this week because I cannot wait to talk to Coach Wannstedt.
Legitimately, obviously you're a coach. You know a lot of coaches. I spent a big part of my career working with coaches. He is by far and away my favorite. You too.
Achoo. Oh, so Jules had a real rough night last night. He kept us up from 2:45 on. And so our morning routine is a little off this morning, but he's doing good. And he's going to be with us for the first few minutes.
You called the audible. I think we must have done something right because Doug is back this morning from the West Coast. So thank you, Doug. Good to see you back here. Helen is joining, so we're doing something right. Romy, good stuff. I don't want to waste any time this morning. I want to jump right into the good stuff. Coach is so engaged in college and in pro football now. I think he's working harder now than he worked as a head coach. But lots of business lessons, lots of good stuff. Shay, let's wake this thing up. Let's get his walk-up music and let's roll. Wake up, everybody. Get up, get up, get up, get up. We got, come on. Wake up, everybody. Teach a new way. Maybe then now listen. Have to say, wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. No more about to thinking, time of thinking ahead. Come on.
Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day.
That song actually rivals our wake-up music. That is so good. Welcome to the show, Coach Wannstedt. So great to see you coming to us live from Chicago.
Yeah, it's great to be on. Anytime I can spend some time with you, Steve, obviously, and Mark, absolutely. It's good. It's a lovely day.
It is a lovely day.
That's my ringtone on my phone, man.
I love that.
So there's so much to talk about today. Give us an update on the schedule that you're keeping. You just shared with us before we went live. You are working, my man.
Well, it's kind of part-time. And you know the way I look at it, Steve, and you know me pretty well from way back in the day. And if I wasn't doing this work in these shows, I'd be hanging around the golf club talking the same subjects. So I might as well get paid for it.
Right. Amen.
I mean, so but no, I do a couple of radio shows a week here in Chicago. I do all the Bears pre and post game on NBC. I do TV for the Big Ten Network on BTN every Tuesday. Tune in. I do a show with Dan Hampton, Pro Football Weekly. We pick games.
Wow.
What else am I doing? I'm a member of the 33rd team, which is a NFL organization that Bill Parcells started up. He's got about 10 coaches, about 8 GMs, former guys that aren't coaching now. And I'm kind of a consultant for Bank of America and Merrill Lynch. I do 4 or 5 of their big events every year here, Chicago and other places with some of the wealth management people and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of everything. And then most importantly, I got 6 grandkids here in Chicago.
God bless.
15 and age 15 oldest, 5 youngest. The 15-year-old is a 3-technique defensive lineman at Loyola High School, and he's my size. I'm 6'4". Okay, he's not my, but he's the same height as I am at 15. He's got a chance. He's got a chance. He's got a chance.
So does he go to Pittsburgh, or where does he go to play for college?
I don't know. I'm sporting the U stuff today. You never know. You know, South Florida is special to me, as you guys know. So, we'll see. He'll probably end up playing lacrosse or basketball. I don't know.
So, Coach, I want to get some football talk out of the way early. I think you have a very, very unique perspective on the sport and the business because you've been a part of it for so long. I think about when you played football and the style of the game, the style of the practice, the way the coaches were to what's happening now and the way the game is run, the way the game is managed, the way it's practiced, and all of the things you're seeing. Obviously, Deion being an unbelievable storyline happening in college football. What's your perspective on the way the game has changed and what's happening with both college and pro football right now?
Well, geez, when you go back to when I played, when I played back in the day, I guess at the end of the day, it's the main thing. I used to always tell my assistant coaches, let's keep the main thing the main thing. In other words, all the outside noise, that's going to be there. That's part of it. And I look at it this way. When I watch Colorado play and Deion, the main thing in football is tackling. It's the fundamentals, right? We all know that. And when you watch Deion's teams, they are not disorganized. I was really anticipating 12 guys on the field, 13 guys on the field, officials throwing flags, delay of games, disorganization. No. He hired a coaching staff. These guys are good, and he lets them coach. Deion does kind of the outside noise part of it. Mm-hmm. You know, he does the recruiting, and he brings the energy. But when you watch Colorado, the blocking and the tackling and the execution and the game plan, that really is no different than when I played and when I coached. You know, the main thing is the main thing. All the other stuff has changed, and it's exciting. It's all good. So I think you have to kind of, put it in different departments and say, okay, here's the football part, here's the outside part. How are you going to handle the outside part of your football team?
So, and relating that to business, I mean, if you look at a CEO, if the CEO is busy, worried about what the daily activities are of the salespeople and how the marketing is sending campaigns out every day and how customer service reps are responding, if they're too in the details, then they can't really focus on that outside stuff. They can't drive the organization that way. So you having been a head coach, do you think that's important for leaders of an organization to have the right people underneath them so that they don't have to be in the details? They don't have to be calling the plays. They don't have to worry about maybe the tiny little fundamentals on a daily basis.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no question about that. And, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. You have to, as a leader, you have to understand that. I can give you stories when I was at the University of Miami or the Dallas Cowboys or Dolphins or Bears, wherever. And there was always an assistant coach or two that you might get frustrated at. It could be an employee, but then you say, you know what, you got to sit back and say, yeah, maybe he does talk too much or exaggerate a little bit, but boy, you know what he brings to the table with his effort and his whatever it might be, there's always a trade-off. And I think good leaders have to not overreact. If they're good people, they're loyal people, they work hard. I think you really need to, sometimes it's a little bit of give and take, with your employees, and same thing with players on your team. And there were guys that drove me crazy, come in, but I'll tell you what, when it was time to play, you knew they were going to play, you knew they knew their assignments. And so you kind of keep the main thing the main thing.
Love that.
Isn't that great? I mean, you were fortunate, Coach. You worked on a lot of amazing staffs, and this is a big conversation. I just listened to Michael McDaniel's podcast yesterday with the guys from the Pivot, and he talked about they talked about the tree that he came from. God, the tree that you came from, and then developed. I mean, you guys impacted football in an amazing way.
Yeah, my tree really goes back to my college coach, who was Coach Johnny Majors, from Tennessee. We won a national championship there at Pitt. I was Coach Majors' first captain. He gave me my first job. And actually, Jimmy Johnson, Coach Majors, was on the Arkansas staff in 1975, 76, when Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones were players on that Arkansas team. They won the national championship at Arkansas, and Johnny Majors was on that staff. So Jimmy kind of falls under that tree too. And if you really trace it back and I do a TV show here in Chicago, Pro Football Weekly, every week with Dan Hampton, a Hall of Famer from the Bears. And he played at Arkansas. And Jimmy Johnson.
I know that. I did not remember that. Wow.
Yeah, and Jimmy Johnson coached him at Arkansas. I mean, that's how crazy the connections are. But it's good. I enjoy staying engaged. Staying up with what's going on in modern football. Last week I just did an interview on the Big Ten Network with Jim Harbaugh. The week before that, I did an interview with James Franklin. So I'm still in the loop. The Bears, I'm up at their training camp all the time. It's funny, you mentioned Mike McDaniels. And I when we took the job at the Dallas Cowboys, there were 3 of us on defense, okay? Because someone asked me, the Bears had a big change here. The defensive coordinator resigned. How are you going to handle that? I says, how are you going to handle that? I says, let me just look up here how many coaches they got on that staff. I says, we had 3. I was the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys. I was the linebacker coach of the Cowboys, and I coached the nickelbacks of the Cowboys. Okay. Dave Campo coached the secondary, and Butch Davis coached the defensive line. And we had 1 young kid that broke film down. I said, that was our staff. So I looked up the Bears, and they have 20 assistant coaches.
Wow.
I said, don't worry. They got plenty of help. If they don't, they should get rid of half those guys. And so times have changed that way, but it's kind of interesting to see and follow what the guys are doing now. And I'm sure, I don't know how many the Dolphins have. They might have 30.
So some people could look at your track and be like, oh, well, you got lucky. You got to play for Coach Majors and you ended up being around Jimmy Johnson and you got lucky. So that brought you through your career. We know that that's not luck. You recognize the people to cultivate relationships with. Can you talk to some of the people about how you recognized who were the people that were on the same mission with you and who were the people that you thought would be valuable people to be a part of your tribe wherever your career might go?
Yeah, I would say this, Mark, to any leaders that are listening to this. Players win games, not coaches. Okay? And in business, you can be a great CEO, but who are your players? Who are the guys that are going to be going out there making it happen for you in the different departments or however your company is set up or business is set up? And so we always, we knew we had a good foundation for what we were going to coach and how we were going to teach it. Okay, we knew that. Now, how are we going to get players that come in and execute that at the highest level? National championship, Super Bowl, on and on. And so that's where the players come in. So I think as a CEO, sure, you got the blueprint exactly how you want your successful company. But with that being said, you've got to go get players. And so we always kept the focus on that. And I think the best thing we did was go get talent. And when we had talent, we kept the talent. So yeah. Actually,
So
the sun does shine.
Great. Your face is glowing. You're looking like a national championship cane right now.
I'm right here between the new the rich residents right here. Okay, on one side of me, and they just opened up this new St. Regis. So That's where I'm sitting here.
So we've got a
Sorry about the sun, but it
no,
does
it's
shine.
Oh,
fantastic.
that's great, man. What are you kidding?
So Lou in the audience has a question for you. He's asking you, are the 85 Bears the best NFL team ever? It's a tough question.
Yeah, I don't know about team. I would say defense. I mean,
Yeah.
they were them in the 76 Steelers with Joe Green and those guys. I think it was 76, 77 Steelers. Those are my two favorite defenses. Yeah.
And so as you were talking about, like, inside of an organization, it's you got to have the fundamentals of what you're going to teach and how you're going to teach it and have that layer. Then it becomes about the players. But I think accountability is an interesting conversation with you guys, because people, I think, referenced Jimmy as a player's coach, as a guy who understood how to navigate individuality along with buy-in to the team and doing everything. You've coached countless big name individuals, Zach Thomas, Ricky Williams, guys that are Hall of Famers and all pros. How can you help leaders navigate the accountability discussion when it comes to dealing with talented people?
Well, I think, when I hire somebody, one of the first questions that I would do, I would say, where do you want to be 5 years from now?
Mm.
And then majority of them really, well, as long as they didn't say they want my job, they were good. Okay. but in all honesty, I would ask them this question, and then I would say, well, how can I help you get there? And I think one of the biggest things with creating and getting the most out of your team is they have to really buy in, and you've got to sell, and you've got to prove it that you are going to help them be as good as they can be. And this is a big one, when the team wins, you will win. That's everybody wants to think that geez, I'm doing so much work and I'm putting in the time and effort. What am I going to get? I'm not benefiting from this. Well, people got to understand, when your business wins, if they're talking about on the ball being the best in the country, which I promoted, everybody wants to be associated with a winner. So you got to convince some of these personalities that might be a little bit on the individual side, but they're really talented. You have to really work as a leader to convince them, hey, you know what? I'm going to help you accomplish your goals, but let me tell you how we're going to do that. We got to do it as a team. Everybody wants to be associated with winning teams. That's when we won the Super Bowl with the Dallas Cowboys. It wasn't just me that got the Chicago Bears job. North Turner got the Washington job at the time. Our assistant general manager became a general manager somewhere. So everybody in the team benefits from that, and that's very hard for a lot of people to digest because they want to be individuals.
So I have a question back to football. We're 2 weeks into this season, and there have been a lot of major name players that have gotten injured for the year, gone for the year. So it feels like their injuries are more prevalent than at any time. You agree or disagree? Because injuries have always played a role in football. It just seems much more in our face with major players getting hurt.
Yeah, the only thing I do this show, this 33rd team, it's NFL players, and we bring a doctor on every week to talk about the current injuries.
Wow.
And the only thing that she has said is that lower extremity, calves, ankles, knees, there seems to be more of those type of injuries than maybe the shoulders and the upper extremities. And what's the reason for that? I mean, nobody really is 100% sure, but these guys are using these personal trainers now. People are training a lot longer, a lot more than what they've ever done. So is it because, overtraining? Is it because of overworking and they come in and they're a little bit tired and things happen? No one has that answer, but lower extremities has been on the increase in the last couple of years, really.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about the turf as well. Is it natural?
I don't. I don't buy
Okay,
into that
good.
really.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds good, but I don't know. I mean, Aaron Rodgers' injury, I mean, I've had a ruptured Achilles myself, and I got mine basically. The horn blew, and I turned and I jogged 3 steps, and it popped. So those injuries, you can rupture your Achilles stepping off a curb. I mean, that was just a freak, unfortunate injury.
So one more question, and then I'll turn it back to Mark. So you're so close to the sport still, having consulting and speaking and understanding and preparation, which we talked about before. Do you ever miss actually being in it?
I do, and I could do it right now. No question about that. I could contribute, put it that way. I could help somebody win. But with that being said, the time commitment, I'm very blessed, very blessed. I mean, the opportunities that I have here in Chicago, and now I'm getting an opportunity to spend this time with my grandkids. And if I took a coaching job, I'd be going by myself, because I did have opportunities. And Jan, my wife, who we've been together now close to 50 years, she says, "Good luck. I'll be following you." So I went almost 40 years straight, and I didn't take a break in between jobs, and that was
you talk about blessed. She's your blessing, man. She is incredible. Oh. What an amazing woman. I'm so glad that both of you are in my life. She's incredible.
She is.
So I'm gonna piggyback off of that question. If you could go back, if tomorrow you got a head coaching opportunity, obviously the landscape has changed, whether it be in college, and we're talking about name, image, and likeness and all of the collective funds and paying kids and all of that, or whether it's in the NFL and you're looking at guys like Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan, who are this next generation of coaches that are maybe doing things a little bit differently in the way they're calling plays or the way they're running organizations. If you were to come back now, what would you do differently as opposed to what you did before?
I would definitely address the quarterback position with a lot more importance. That's the late Jim Mandich, God bless him, who did the Dolphins games when we were all in Miami. He was the best. And Jim said, "You know what we're going to put on your tombstone? If he only had a quarterback."
Yeah.
And when I was at the Bears, I had 6 different quarterbacks, 6 different years start for me. I mean, the Dolphins, we had Jay Fiedler, and then when he got hurt, Ray Lucas, and we never really addressed that position, probably like we should have, because I was a guy that was convinced that we could win a Super Bowl playing defense, running the ball, and have good special teams. And
you almost did. You almost.
We almost did it. But it came down to it. As good a player as Jay Fiedler was, and I love the guy, when we came down to it, we had to beat Tom Brady and Peyton Manning to take that next step. And we had Ricky Williams led the NFL in rushing.
You were really on the cusp of the change of the NFL. Like that window was really where the league went to becoming, you had to have the quarterback. I mean, you could just back up a couple years before, and the Ravens won a Super Bowl with an average quarterback and unbelievable defense and special teams. They beat the Giants that way in the Super Bowl. So you were really at that turning point in the NFL where it became so quarterback heavy. You still see people struggle with it now. You're watching Chicago. Justin Fields, is he the answer? Is he not the answer? He's got some really interesting ways that he chose to respond to the media this past week. Bryce Young, you spend an early pick on a guy like Bryce Young. He's already hurt. He's little. So what would be some of maybe the things that you would really put as the non-negotiables for bringing in a quarterback in this kind of league?
Well, number one, I think leadership, because he has the voice. He's going to be the face. And then number two, the guy just needs – I've always looked at quarterbacks like your team's behind by a touchdown or 10 points, and there's 5 minutes to go. Can the guy that's your quarterback, can he take him down the field twice and score twice and win the game for you? That's what separates quarterbacks. I mean, we've seen that Dan Marino do that for years at the Dolphins. That's usually what separates good quarterbacks from the great ones. And then all the little mechanic things what I could get into with accuracy and all that stuff. But no, I would say leadership and then just that type of confidence and charisma and that hey, I can win. I'm going to take this team down and win and put it on my back. That's what really separates most of these guys.
I love it.
Mark, any other final questions for Coach? I know he's got a busy schedule.
Just one more, maybe. I recently in a lot of my, trainings with my teams, we've talked about communication and we've talked about the importance of communication. When you spoke down here at the Levant Center, you hit on it a little bit, the importance of it. For you inside of an organization, how did you cultivate the right kind of environment to where yet you knew guys were being upfront, they were being honest, they were bringing problems to the forefront? How did you cultivate an open communication of culture?
Two thoughts here real quick just came to my mind. Number one, I think some of the best decisions that I was ever involved with coaching were done outside the office, outside the boardroom. You sit around those staff meetings, those board meetings. I always thought that anything over 30 minutes, you're going to start losing people. Now, we would have the big draft meetings and all that. Don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about kind of on a daily basis or a weekly basis. Get in there, you have 2 or 3 points. Wayne Huizenga, the past owner of the Dolphins, we were playing golf. I had just taken to the job at the Dolphins, and Wayne's still arguably maybe the best businessman ever. I mean, he's the only guy that put 2 companies on the New York Stock Exchange, and he started from scratch: Waste Management and Blockbuster. So we're up at his private club playing golf, and he said, "So what are you going to tell the team the first meeting?" And I was so excited to tell him. I start rambling on, and he says, "Stop. He says, let me tell you something." He says, "When I started Waste Management, I came up with 3 words. And those 3 words, I posted those words at the coffee machine, in the bathroom, in the men's room, in the ladies' room, where they checked in, where they checked out, the coat room. And that was our mission statement. Keep it simple, keep it clean." And because of that, so I went back and I did that. And so I've always been kind of a guy, when you have meetings with your staff, think about what you want to talk about, okay? And kind of cut it down to 1, 2, 3 points at the most, and leave it at that. You will be so much more productive than going in there with a list and babbling on for an hour. The second thing, the most important trade that's ever been done, one of them in sports world, but definitely with the Dallas Cowboys, is when we made the trade for Herschel Walker. We could not win a game. We were terrible at Dallas. We had no players. And we were about, in every 2 or 3 days a week, myself, Jimmy called it the inner circle. There was about 3 or 4 of us that would go for a walk and a jog and just take an hour. Let's get out of here. Let's do it. And obviously all we talked about was the game and football. And we're coming back from this walk, and Jimmy said, "Man, we got to win some damn games, or they're going to run us all out of town." I mean, they were after us in Dallas, and these college guys, on and on and on. Okay, with that being said, somebody said, "Well, how are we going to get these players?" And then we started brainstorming. Well, who do we have on our team? We stink. Who do we have on our team that anybody would want? And we came up with 2 players, Troy Aikman, and his contract was no cut contract as a rookie. And the second guy was Herschel Walker. And so we go back from the walk, and 3 hours later, Jimmy had traded Herschel Walker to the Minnesota Vikings for all those picks and all those first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
My point is this. Would we, when you get out away from the office, whether you're having a beer or having a Coke or just on a walk with your employees, it's amazing how people will put their guard down but yet their minds are going. And people say things more freely in those type of environments than they would. I had after every game, win, lose, or draw. Steve, I don't know if you ever even attended one. I would have my house would be open. And I would have the staff over, and we won. Sure, we were silly. We were going to the Super Bowl. Everything was great. But when we lost, was real important, because that's when I could say, hey, to my offensive line coach, Tony Wise, hey, Tony, that scheme now, we can't block that thing on the edge. We got to do something, and we're having a beer and we're talking about it. And then the next day we're in the office, we're back at the grind, and guess what? Those things generally happen.
Yep.
So that would be my answer,
That's
Mark.
awesome.
I
That's fantastic. It's a great answer.
Great answer. So insightful, because people do tend to put their guards up and CYA, cover your ass in the office. But when it's out in the open and you're in another environment, we talk about environment all the time. That is absolutely brilliant, Coach. As always, I wish you'd get a coaching job myself. But you know what? And when it's so great.
You better not, Dad, because if he gets a coaching job, I might call him to go with him.
I know. Oh, that would be terrible. That would be.
I'm an expert now. See, when I'm coaching, I didn't know anything. Now I'm an expert.
You can't be wrong. Now you can't be wrong. Right?
Yeah. Great. You know what? When Mark brought up the fact that you were here at the Levant Center, I would like to explore doing that again. So I don't know. Are you doing Super Bowl stuff this year, or?
I haven't committed to anything for the Super Bowl yet. No.
Okay.
So keep me in mind.
Yeah. A big watch party, and pull.
Yeah, I'll be coming. I'll be in Chicago till at the end of the regular NFL season. So like the middle of January, and then we'll be down in Florida. But I can get anywhere. I can go anything.
Awesome. And if not, I'm coming over to Naples to see you guys. Fantastic. Thanks for spending the time. So great.
Anytime.
Hugs and kisses to Dan, and we will definitely see you soon.
You're my man.
See you guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football. And make sure you guys get a little bit something done. We'll see you guys on Monday. Let's get down to business.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down